Hello, hello! Black Bean Samson here today. It is June 6th, almost 3 o'clock. On my way home. Been away from home for the last 3 days. Doing technical services for companies and working with another company on with chemicals and stuff. It was pretty interesting. I don't like to get too much detail as it might shed light on maybe the business that I work for, or the businesses I provide service for. We all know how those leftist people can react to when they know this personal information of anybody that they will label as a alt-right. And the things I like to talk about are easily labeled as the alt-right. So, but today, what I'm going to be talking about, it's pretty much about success. About dreaming big, about becoming important. So lately, well, I should say lately, but in the past, I've heard, like, way in the past, when I was growing up, one of the common phrases to say to a kid growing up is to tell them that dream big so you can achieve big, or something along those lines, right? And the problem as we get older is that you soon find out that a lot of the dreams that you were having just are not coming to fruition. They're just not happening. Not even close, or something happens to stop you. Like, something simple like you thought that you're going to become a football star, and then you had your knee broke, or something, your leg broke, or something, ankle, whatever. And now because of that injury, you just simply can never be a athlete in that type of field. You might be able to become an athlete in ping pong. You might be ping pong if your leg broke your leg, but you're just never going to become a runner or anything to do with your legs, essentially, within sports. The chances of it is significantly lowered, and yeah, you guys get it. It's the same thing with fighters, MMA and UFC fighters. Once they break their ankle or their leg or their arm, or back in the past, in the early days of the UFC, where they had people actually breaking people's arms and ankles and that, it was usually a career killer, which is why they stopped people from actually. They try to stop that from happening. So they tried to stop you from breaking the ankle. They'll call the match before that happens, because the business itself knows that when this person is down and out for 6 months to heal, that we're missing this fighter who could potentially bring money in. Second, when they do get called back and finally are supposedly all healed up, it's very easily, that injury is able to be inflamed or used against them, or even it breaks again while it's, again, I mean, you can only break something so many times before you just got to be like, you know what, it's over with. So, career, success, stuff like that can end just suddenly. It doesn't have to be under even the circumstances of breaking something. It's just simply that you just don't have the skill. So there's some people, like Mike Rowe, I was listening to one day, and he was talking about how his, I think it was his grandfather. And his grandfather used to be, I think he was talking about how he was a carpenter or some type of builder. And that he didn't even need to look at schematics to build anything. He could just simply start building things. And Mike Rowe could not do that. Mike Rowe didn't have the whatever the necessary skill or the ability, genetically the ability, to see this in his head and then perform that task. Mike Rowe's talents are in other ways, I believe, and I think we all know that, and in the sense of Dirty Jobs and everything else that he's done since then and before that. He's an extremely good talker. He's extremely good at being precise on what needs to be said, essentially, about the situation or what's in context. So he's really good at that. Compared to most carpenters, have a conversation with them. They usually tend not to be the best conversationalist because their skill lies in not in conversation, but in building. It's very rare to come across someone who's equally just as skillful at talking and as skillful at building. It's extremely rare. Not everybody can be a Da Vinci. So, success. And what's interesting, stick with the Mike Rowe here for a second, because Mike Rowe actually, during the conversation I was listening to, it is actually really interesting because he talks about kind of like success. And that, chasing after your dreams is sometimes the wrong thing to do. And I'm kind of paraphrasing, but I'm pretty sure he said, don't chase your dream. Let your dream follow you. Now, I don't know if that's exactly what he said, but it's kind of paraphrasing what he did say. And it pretty much just means that, don't follow your dreams. Because following your dreams does not always lead you to your dreams. It leads to many, 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 many failures. Because sometimes people can't just take the hint that their failures of many times is representative of the fact that they're never going to gain the significant skills to carry out that dream. And it's not to say not to dream big, and it's not to say not to dream anything that is past your skills, so not to push yourself or anything. It just, realize the limitations. Learn about yourself enough to learn about your limitations. I mean, I would love to be a surgeon, but my hands are slightly shaky. Just enough to where I know I would never be a good surgeon, or at least without robotics. And there's perhaps too I might not have the actual intelligence enough to remember all the symptoms or all the procedures to do certain surgeries. But then again, when you get down to the practicalities of most of these practices, they have procedures, and each step by step is something that you have to do pretty much exactly the same for everyone. Now, I'm sure there's a little slight differences, just like if you're going to work on machines. It's the exact same paper press machine, but the fact is that this one has been worn out slightly different from this one because of the use. So of course you might do something just slightly a little different, maybe a different tightening, maybe a different length bolt, or there's something always slightly little different, but the facts are the same. I mean, the procedure is exactly down to the same. You got to remove that bolt that way, and it can't be no matter if it's a different length bolt and it has to be done with this socket set all the time. It's not like it's going to change in the middle of it. In the middle of changing a half inch nut, suddenly it doesn't turn into a 3/4 nut. So it's the same thing when you're on the procedure bit. This is at least I've got is that things just don't suddenly always change. I mean, besides maybe like heartbeats and blood pressure and stuff like that. That's again, those are different things that I'm sure anyone who is highly intelligent can figure out or learn. But back to the success part, I at 32 years old, I don't see myself just suddenly becoming a surgeon, because I haven't even learned the skills of a nurse, essentially, let alone a doctor, let alone a surgeon. So there's things like that. I don't see myself just suddenly becoming a doctor. Even though I had dreamt of wanting to save people, but I just don't see myself now doing that. I actually, at 32 years old, I see myself, if I just suddenly wanted to keep on dreaming of saving people, I suddenly see myself more becoming like a firefighter or a police officer or something along those lines, a lifeguard, a coast guard, or something, something along those lines. And I have a feeling I won't be saving many lives as I'm going to be finding a lot more dead bodies and investigating drugs and drug cartels, and I have a feeling that'd be at least 2/3 of my job, rather than actually trying to save people's lives. That's just my thought. Maybe I'm totally wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm probably pretty close to being right on that. So, the success thing, dreaming big. So it's not to say never to dream, but just don't let your dreams dictate where you go in life. I mean, hell, when I was growing up, I was told that you should go into computers. And then I started, as I was growing up, I started to think that, because I am good at computers, well, maybe I should just do computers. I personally never had any big dreams of anything. And maybe that's partially why my form of success is smaller than other people's form of success. And I'll get into that. But either way, success leads, getting to success of some sort leads to happiness. And I think that's the most important thing that all people's, if you could write down essentially, the actual basic meaning of your dream, right? Which is, is in the end is to make you happy. And if you could draw that out or write that out, you'd see your starting goal, and then the starting line, and then the end of the goal, which would be happiness. And no matter what success that is out there, the result in the end is happiness. So I think that's the most important thing that people should be trying to achieve. It's trying to achieve happiness, not so much as the success or the dream itself, but the happiness at the end of the success. Like, how do you achieve getting to that happiness? Because people out there, people will be like, well, they're really successful. They're just worth millions of dollars. But are they happy? Because as you can look into statistics of happiness within multimillionaires and people with a lot of money, not all of them are really, really happy. So that begs the question. It begs a question as to why aren't these multimillionaires really, why aren't the majority of them actually happy? I really honestly can't say. I mean, if I was to guess, I would just guess that they weren't trying to achieve happiness. They were just trying to achieve success. And I think that is one of the major problems with the idea of telling people to always dream big, rather than dream what will make you happy in life. Finding the things that are what brings prosperity in your life, what brings joy in your life. Because those are the things that are going to make you really want to continue what you do. And maybe even push further. In fact, I would say it's pretty much probably guaranteed right there. I mean, there's always, 1 out of a million things type deal where, pushing for happiness is maybe not the right idea. But I can pretty much guarantee that going the other way is the best way. So, you know, when I look at myself compared to others, and I'm pretty sure a lot, this goes even with like art and whatnot, like, and even probably athletes, like, I can always do a little bit better, or I can never draw as good as that person, or I'll never become as successful as that person. But again, is what you do in the end leading to your happiness? So is the drawings that you do, does that make you happy? I mean, does that really make you happy? If it does, okay, you succeeded. You succeeded at what so many people are actually trying for, but a lot of people just run by it and don't even know it. And the same thing goes with success. How many people out there say that, they succeeded, I made millions of dollars, but are they happy? No. Well, then the person who's making only $20,000 a year goes, I'm happy as hell. Like, I'm happy. Maybe too happy because now they're content and they don't want to move on. But the fact is that they're happy. And being happy is all that really matters when it comes to success, at least in my eyes. Like all these audio logs I'm essentially uploading over time and make, it makes me happy to essentially get my ideas out there. I can really care less if I get, some form of success out of this, because that's not really my goal, beyond the fact that I hope people listen to it. That's my only thing I would like to happen over the next, in my lifetime. I hope people hear me out and pick up on the conversation and argue things back, or tell me where I need to correct certain ideas, or anything like that. Just open the discussion up. So that's pretty much all my goal is, essentially. Beyond that, I can care less. Because this right here is enough to it makes me happy that I'm able to sit here and record my information and put it out there. Now, for like career-wise, I went to college for computer network system and security, and emphasized on networking security, especially, really in the network, rather than, and like how to implement it, even more so than the security part. But I was finding that even though I like computers and that's where I thought, because I was told too, like, hey, you should go for computers. You're really good for computers. And I thought I was really good with computers. But the thing is, that was not my actual true. It was a dream of mine, but it wasn't my true reach to happiness. It wasn't what I was really, thought I was happy to do. And I think that's one of the important things to understand between careers and happiness again. What gives you happiness? Because if you think that by doing what you're doing is going to make you happy, then you're already going about it wrong. Because what it is that what you are doing now to get to it should be already making you happy. So in other words, is that when I was going to college and learning some of this stuff, strictly for computer part, everything to do with computers, I should have been like, at least from what I think, I should have been like happy about it. I should have been excited to learn every new little thing about a network, the new IPv6 coming out and how that's going to be implemented. A lot of that should have excited me in some way, but it never did. Coding, for instance, I think anybody who's really into computers, you should at least have some happiness that comes from coding. I just do not care for it. But what I realized in the midst of going to college and doing the computer work and talking to people and conversing with people, and then fixing things is right there. I like fixing things per se. I don't always like the complete. I don't want to say this. Like, I don't care for so much the implementation of a network. I don't care for all that. I don't care for the oversight and making sure that everybody is making a good strong passcode. Like, I just don't care about any of that type of stuff. I don't care about how the signal is being sent from depending on the length of Ethernet cord, your signal strength will degrade the further that your Ethernet cord runs. So you need either boosters or you just can't run it that far. So I just don't care about all that stuff. That stuff, it's so boring to me in a sense. But out of that, when I was doing all that, talking and fixing things, so right there, I'm like, I really like doing this. I really like talking. I really like discussing ideas. I really like conversing, and I really like. I enjoy fixing things, and fixing things that not so much in the digital world, but more or less actually in the physical world in that sense. So the computers, I would love to fix the servers and stuff like that. But most of the time when you're doing that type of work, there's not really conversation builders. There's really not like with business owners and stuff like that. You don't find yourself always in that world. At least from my little bit of time, I didn't find myself always. And maybe it's because of where I was locating for positions and stuff. But I just didn't find myself always like getting to know the top dogs, essentially, like in the business world, or even just and when I or just even talking about whatever. What I found was always like, when is that going to be implemented? It was always small talk, essentially. I don't know. It's interesting. Maybe that's my personal experience. But what I did find is that when I was getting more into the physical fixing things, like, say a coffee maker or a dishwasher or a juice maker or an oven or a fryer or even just a refrigerator or even a vehicle, like, or even house stuff like electrical, plumbing, like doing that type of stuff, I enjoy. I enjoy a lot, and it's partially to do with because I'm working for a company. I don't know, it's kind of the same thing, but it's not. I seem to have had more conversations, more discussions while I'm doing physical or working on physical things rather than on digital things. So when you're implementing networks through a computer, right, you're typing your stuff, there's not always trying to explain what I'm doing to people that have no idea and that type of stuff. It's they just don't care. But when I'm all like, I could point to something physical and I'm like, you see that? This is what this does. And this is how this works with this and blah, blah, blah. People like get interested in it. And I actually enjoy that. I like that. I like the fact that I can physically grab these things and be like, you see what this is? This is the problem right here. You see this right here? So when things happen again, down 10 years down the line, they could be like, well, I remember 10 years ago, you showed me that part and it was doing this thing before you came, so I'm guessing that's the same part since it's doing the same thing now, 10 years later. So it's things like that. I like that. I'm all like, that's awesome. Like, I remember telling that person exactly that thing and showed them that part, and now they're telling me that that's what that is most likely. Which, of course, it makes my job just a little bit easier because now I don't have to, do 5 steps. I can go right to that part, look at it real quick, and be like, oh, look, it is just this valve solenoid. The spring is, either rusted up or limed up, and it just doesn't want to actually open up to allow the water to flow through now. So yeah, when you heard it just making that like vibration noise, yeah, it wasn't working properly, right? So it's things like that. I enjoy that. I enjoy, and one of the other things I really enjoyed with uh, um, working with things in physical world rather than the digital world is that um, there is more personal connections with people because, of course, again, like I'm showing these people these parts and whatnot and that. But I'm not always just like talking to another coworker or another tech head. I'm talking to like business owners, general managers, supervisors, and usually a lot of these people get in these higher up positions or own businesses because of they're intelligent, they're smart, so they're usually really, really great to talk to. Not everyone, but it's one of those like one out of like 100 essentially isn't the best to talk to, but overall most owners and supervisors and managers and general managers, they're great to talk to, and especially about life matters, about the issues and the problems, and about the general things that happen in life. Because all these people, a lot of times, especially when I talk about like how do they achieve their success, it's kind of the same thing. Like a lot of times, they weren't even aimed at the thing that they actually find themselves to be most happiest about. So, like me, I went to college for computer network system and security, and even though I like playing with computers, I found that I just did not enjoy that side of playing with computers. But then I realized what I really found that I really enjoy and that I like is the fact of me fixing stuff, actual physical stuff, mechanical stuff, and then conversing with people. Now, maybe some way I could find that within the digital world, but I just like the physical world, not rather than the digital world. So, and maybe it's easier for me to work with. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe my patience, because I did find that my patience was worn out thin at times when trying to explain or implement certain things within essentially the digital world. But I just found a lot more happiness when I was working with and conversing a lot more with people. And I think once people realize what makes them happy, even something so simple, what they should really do is start pruning their life in a way that fits more of that. So if you, like me, in a sense, if you became a garbage man, but yet you always find yourself talking to people and whatnot, well, maybe what you should try to really do is work up to being someone for the city to discuss more stuff about the trash. Because if you like to talk about things, right, and talk about issues and problems, well, maybe you'd be better not just for picking up trash, but talking about the trash that you picked up, talking about the issues within the business or the city when it comes to picking up trash and how to lay waste to it and whatever the procedures to do with the trash. The longer time that you have picking up that trash allows you to aim better at the skill of talking about the trash itself, because you like to talk. Well, since you like to talk, well, you got to learn about the subject matter that you're talking about, and what better is it to actually physically do the job. So, I mean, there's situations like that, I think. But what I'm really trying to get to is sometimes success comes out of the most silliest areas. The happiness. And when I say success, happiness. Sometimes doing the things that you never would think that would lead to happiness actually does lead to happiness. And it's because what you're doing is trying to find within the jobs that you pick up, at least this is what I think, when you're doing jobs, overall, hopefully what you're also doing is finding out what you like particularly about that job. Because particularly what that you like about that job, you can take that, right, build upon it, build a skill essentially off of that particular part of that job. And again, like if you're working in the food industry and you always find yourself enjoying more about talking to people rather than cooking or serving the food, All right. Well, then what you need to do is perhaps maybe find a job that does a lot more talking, like counseling or whatever the type of talking you like to do. You want to debate, you want to talk about matters, or there's situations like that. It's find that what you liked out of the job, and then see how you can build up off of that. Because if you don't build off of a skill in your early life, it's going to be very difficult later on in life to find happiness.